Alright, hi there. We're going to learn how to conduct a paired samples t-test using Excel. So in order to do a paired samples t-test, you need a certain type of data. You need to make sure your independent variable is categorical and your dependent variable is continuous. So the data that we are using, you can see for paired samples is basically a repeated measures type of test or within samples. And so that's basically one person taking a test or performing some kind of experiment twice, and then you compare their two tests against each other to see if there was a difference. So maybe in this case, it's conducting the Stroop effect. So people were asked to read words where the color of the font matched the spelling of the word, and that would have been demonstrated here for time 1. They gave a set of words, green, red, yellow, blue, and then they had to read the word, and then at the end give the time it took them to do that. And then the second time they were given the spelling of a word that did not match with the color of the font. So it could have been green, for example, spelled out green, but the font color would have been maybe red. And they would have to say the color red, the color of the font, instead of read the word, which would cause individuals to slow down, because our automatic response is to read something rather than look at the color of it. So for our example, it shows this is the first time is how long it took them when the color and the word spelling matched, and when they were inconsistent for time 2. So if we're asking ourselves, what is our independent variable? How is that categorical? We're saying the categorical variable are the two times, time 1 and time 2. Category 1, category 2. And our dependent variable is actually time. Time is a continuous variable, or in this case, a continuous variable is represented by ratio and interval measures. So continuing on, let's go ahead and actually perform the test in Excel. And to do that, go to your Data tab, and you should see a button over here all the way to the right that says Data Analysis. If that is not in your Excel program, you can put it in there by going to Options, by clicking File, Options, and then click here, down here in the left-hand pane where it says Add-ins, and find where it says Analysis Tool Pack, and then just hit OK. And then it should ask you, is this the one you want, and so on. You hit OK, and then that should put the button there for you. Okay, so we're going to hit Data Analysis, and I've already found it here, but if you scroll through here, look for the t-test that says paired two sample for means, and hit OK. And to calculate it, we first want to put it in our first variable, which is time 1. So click this arrow button and include time 1, the title, in your selection. Hold down, click your mouse button down and hold it and drag all the way to the bottom of the data and let go, and then hit enter. And then do the same for the next one. Drag and hit enter. Now, when I told you to include the title, that's because we want to include the labels. If this is not checked, check it for our data, so when it outputs the outcomes, we can see which variables are which. You'll see in a moment. And generally alpha is already set. Typically default has a new worksheet selected, but we want output range, and then click the box again here and tell it where you want it to spit out your results. And we want it to, let's put it over here, right about there because we have some more calculations to perform. So we're going to make it start here, and you'll see why. And then just hit OK. And now, see, it started there. That's where it put out the results for me. Now, for paired samples t-test, in order to write this in an APA format paper, we need to include the effect size, which is Cohen's d. Unfortunately, Excel, and neither does SPSS, they do not calculate that for us. But what we do have here are the means for each variable. We have the variance. You'll notice that it's missing the standard deviation. We'll calculate that too. We'll show you how to do that because we're going to need that to put it in the results. It does have the t statistic, the degrees of freedom, which is the total n minus 1. Here is their n, observations. We had 41. Degrees of freedom is 41 minus 1, which is 40. And then it gives you the one-tailed test and the two-tailed test. We're interested in this t statistic, and it also provides critical values. And this is the mean and the variance for time 2. So to calculate, you'll see, well, first of all, let's see. To calculate the effect size, we need the mean difference, which unfortunately Excel doesn't provide, and the standard deviation of the difference in scores. And I'll show you how to do that. So in order to get the mean difference, basically it is hit the equal sign on your, click into this box and then hit the equal sign so that we can perform calculations, and we're going to subtract. Subtract the first one, put a minus sign, and then click here so it'll subtract it by the second one. Hit enter, and there's the calculation. That's the mean difference. We subtracted. Now we want the standard deviation, not the variance, of our variables, each one of them. So in order to find that, let's see, we can hit the equal sign, and you can find this in this list of scores by going to more functions, and I'm going to start putting it in. I have statistical selected here, so we're going to put, let's see if it'll find it for us, standard deviation. Down here. So this STDEV stands for standard deviation of the population, but we have a sample size. So the S here stands for sample. So hit OK. Click this box, and this time do not select the label, but for time 2 select the numbers only, and drag down, release, hit enter, and let's hit OK. Oops. Alrighty. So that's the standard deviation for time 1. We want it for also time 2 because we need to write that in our results, and we already have this nicely selected, so let's just enter it in there. Enter. Okay. Okay. Now, we want to have the standard deviation of the difference in scores. So in order to achieve that, we need to make the difference in scores. So put difference in scores. Hit the equal sign again so we can subtract. Click in here, minus, click here, enter. Now, so that's correct. So 88 or 76 minus 88 is negative 12. If I click back in there and I grab this little square at the bottom and make the cross sign appear, I can click and then drag it down, and it will give me the difference in all of the scores. Great. Now let's get the difference. Hit the equal sign of our standard deviations. hit the equal sign, and we want the standard deviation. Click here, here. Voila, enter. All right, there we go. We're trucking. All right, so what is it? It is the mean difference divided by the standard deviation of the difference in scores. So let's go back and we'll calculate that. Hit the equal sign, select the mean difference, then the divide sign, which is a slash, by the mean or the difference in standard deviations. Select that, hit enter, and there's the result. This is the effect size, or Cohen's d. There's the calculation. So in order to compare this to how SPSS might show you, we can see if it's similar. Let's take a look. So the means 27.35 for the first one, 27.35 there. Let's see. Here's the mean difference. It's negative 8.75. Did we get that? Yes. When we subtracted them, we got that. How about the difference in standard deviations? 7.033. Let's see. 7.033. Yes. That's when we created this standard deviation from these scores. It's the same. So we should have ended up with the same Cohen's d if we divided them, right? And let's take a look. 1.24 when we did it with SPSS. 1.24, same. So now to write our results, since we got all of the same scores as SPSS, you can write out this sentence to write it in APA format in your results section. A paired samples t-test indicated that scores were significantly higher for words with consistent spelling and color, and here's the means for that. Mean 27.4 and the standard deviation 25.30. Let's see if our standard deviation was the same. Yes, 25.19, or actually 13 if you round it. And it's very, very close, so I would say yes, that was a score, or correct. And for the other variable, the inconsistent spelling and color, the mean 36.1, here it is, and then the standard deviation 21.92, and that actually hit it just exactly. And then we had our T degrees of freedom is right here, 40, where this 40 is, and here's the degrees of freedom in Excel. Here's the T statistic, negative 7.97. Let's see, did we get that? Negative 7.97, rounded, yes. And then we have the p-value. Is it less than 0.001? That's significance, by the way. And anything significant is less than 0.05. But our significance test is right here. And this E indicates that there are too many zeros for it to go. And this is the p-value. So, in fact, if this was written out without the E, it would be significant. And then we move on to the calculations that we worked so hard for to achieve Cohen's d 0.124. That was the calculations that were made in using the numbers from SPSS, and we have the same here. And that's how you would conduct a paired samples t-test using Excel. All right, guys. Thanks.